This is the most character-driven thing I've written ever, probably. It's emotional for me because it sucks. Writing makes me excited. Who knew? This is like Write Your Book Impossible edition. I was originally filming this in a much prettier location, and then the AC turned on and decided to be rude. So now we're in front of a fence. I look ridiculous because I have a million stickers on my face. Also, my SD card broke, so I'm filming this on my phone. I'm working on a new novella called Hallowed Bodies. It's an adult literary fiction novella. It's not going to be very long. I am a liar, basically. I wanted this book to be about 10,000 words, so on the shorter end of novellas, and I think it's gonna end up being longer because it's already over 4,000 words, and I haven't really done anything. Hallowed Bodies is basically a companion novella to another novella I recently wrote this year called Body Back, which comes from a series that is kind of complicated to explain, but the TLDR version is from 2014 to 2019. I wrote 6 books that are called the Fostered series. From 2019 to 2022, I wrote a spin-off of that series called Mothwork, and Mothwork has 2 books, which is Mothwork and Feeding Habits. Body Back is the book that comes after Mothwork, so it's the novella for Mothwork, so it would go Mothwork, Body Back, and then we have Hallowed Bodies now, which comes before the second book, Feeding Habits, so it is essentially a prequel. So I'm working on Hallowed Bodies right now. It follows Lonan, who, I mean, if you are not new to this channel, you would know. He's just a dude I've been writing with for a really long time. So in Hallowed Bodies, he's basically doing nothing. He's been living in Las Vegas with his girlfriend, and she goes away for a week to visit her mom, and so he's alone for a week. And I wanted to see what would happen if I threw Lonan into a room for a week by himself. There's this novelty that's quite exciting, and it happened to me with Body Back, like in the first couple of pages, where it feels like this glorious new world that you're entering, and I felt the same way with Hallowed Bodies. Now, I haven't been really vlogging the process or anything, so you wouldn't know. I'm kind of doing catch-up on here, but the first chapter came to me quite easily. I had this opening that I'd written back in April, and after that point, I jumped into the project with Lonan doing his typical daily routine, which consists of him walking a really like nonsensical, very repetitive route every single day back home. So it takes a lot longer than it should. It's not logical, and it's not really in his character. He's not the kind of person, or, you know, at least he wasn't the type of person to, you know, waste a lot of time kind of meandering, and now he is. This story just kind of burst open out of nowhere. And, you know, I'm at chapter 3 right now. I haven't been writing this project for very long. I started it, I believe, in July, and I would like to finish it in July. So I've only been writing it. It's the 11th of July when I'm filming this, for like 11 days. It's really not been that long since I started this book, and I'm already getting like that newness has faded. It's not as exciting. A lot of the plans I had originally are not really panning out in the way that I thought they would. So Lonan's relationship with his mother, I thought this was really going to be like him thinking about his mom a lot, but he's not. So I'm like, you know, I'm not going to force that. I'm really trying to take cues from the narrative. This is the most character-driven thing I've written ever, probably. Even Body Back had plot. This is really him doing nothing every single day. Where we're at right now in the book, Lonan is looking for his sister, Reeve, who went missing. And this is canonically true from the original series. Those first 6 books that I was talking about were narrated by his sister, and she does go missing at the end. She goes missing herself. Like, she runs away from her own life. And so he's looking for her, and we're going to introduce kind of like a new character, and also a new conflict between Lonan and this guy who wants to help him look for his sister. Yesterday, I did quite a bit of writing. I was writing with some pals, and I was able to get a couple hundred words in, which was great. But I was starting to feel a little bit like restless because it didn't feel like I had developed enough of something. Like, I felt like I'm kind of missing the idea that I had in my head is not really translating here, but also like, should I just abandon the idea in my head and just go with what I'm doing? I always end up doing that, and that's what ends up working, but there's always something in the back of my head that goes like, what if I had stuck with sort of like those first inklings of the idea rather than what my intuition took me down. So that's kind of been disrupting the process a bit. Welcome to my relatively messy room. So I wrote just under 600 words yesterday, which is really cool. It was across 60 minutes of writing. We had done 2 30-minute sprints, which was really great that I was able to get some writing in. Honestly, I would not have written otherwise. I have been trying to get back to my like daily writing routine. I always hate the advice advice, of write every day, but it genuinely helps me. I do like to write every day. Because I pants and because I'm very forgetful, I find it useful because if I'm constantly writing, I'm just constantly like aware of what's happening in my book. If I'm not, then I'm gonna forget. So I wrote about 4 scenes yesterday across that 600 words. Now, that sounds like a lot, and it's because it is. It's because these scenes are really, really short. I've noticed that my chapters are really based off of like little quests. So typically I've noticed when I'm writing Mothwork, Feeding Habits, and Body Back, those chapters are structured in a very particular way. So this plot structure is called the orbital plot structure. Basically, you have a theme at the center of your chapter, or this could work for a short story, and then you have rings around that theme, and those rings are each scenes, and all of those scenes orbit around that theme. So then you're gonna continue to have rings depending on how many scenes you have. Each ring is a scene, and all of those scenes have to revolve around that theme. At the end of the day, they always revolve around that theme. If you're curious about how this actually works, crime TV shows often follow this structure, in my opinion. So things like Hannibal and things like even episodes of Criminal Minds, especially when the episode follows one of the main characters and a crime kind of relates to an internal conflict that character's having. So Hallowed Bodies, on the other hand, doesn't follow this structure at all, which is weird. And I noticed it immediately because the chapters are much shorter, but it just felt more intuitive to keep my chapters under 2,000 words, or as close as I could under 2,000 words. Body Back, on the other hand, is comprised, most of the chapters are about 7,000 words each in Body Back, and there's only 5 chapters in that book. The shortest chapter is chapter 1, which is like 3,500. I noticed that the structure is more in line with quests. So Lonan is achieving little quests in each chapter, and so they don't feel as rounded. They're not as like intense. They're not as much of an arc. It's just a little thing that he does. So chapter 1, he walks home. Like, that's the whole quest. Chapter 2 follows him trying to go buy cigarettes at a convenience store, and he ends up meeting somebody who reminds him of his sister, which kind of launches us into him wanting to look for his sister. And then chapter 3, which I'm currently writing, is him at a library trying to research about his sister. He's doing it in a completely illogical way by looking into resources that he, logically speaking, knows she wouldn't appear in, like looking at phone books from the 80s. She wasn't alive, basically, at that point.
I've once again switched filming devices because my phone's running out of space and I'm sick and tired of deleting my random videos of filming countryside Ontario. The plan for chapter 3 is for me to just end after he meets this guy who will eventually help him look for his sister, at least be more useful than what Lonan's currently doing. I think the whole point of what Lonan's doing a lot of in Hallowed Bodies is trying to find purpose. A lot of Mothwork, he spent it being pretty high strung, being a really difficult person to be around, being, a little bit, for a lack of a better word here, stable. So now in Hallowed Bodies and Feeding Habits, which is the book that comes after, he is stable. And so I think he's struggling a little bit to go from having like a really chaotic life to having like a really normal life, like within like the flip of a switch. It's just not normal for him. This relationship that I'm hoping to create in the rest of this book between him and this dude, I'm hoping it'll kind of be like a reversal of his relationship with Harrison. He'll almost get to see what it would have been like for Harrison to date him, basically, because this guy who I don't really know what's gonna happen there. It's not gonna be, if you know about Body Back and you know Jeremiah, it's no Jeremiah situation. I don't even know this guy's name. I've really been enjoying writing this book though. It's really fun to get back into a project that is simple and it's exciting too, and also something that I'm not allowing myself to really write past this month. I don't want to be stuck writing this book for the next 4 months, and there's nothing wrong with taking your time, and Body Back took me a lot longer than I thought it was going to. I thought it was only going to take me a month to write that, which is silly. Makes a lot of sense though, because I was coming off of Seventh Virtue where I could write a lot of Seventh Virtue really quickly. Body Back wasn't that easy. It was like almost 30,000 words took me 4 months, which was still pretty fast, to be honest. But Hallowed Bodies is such a contained story that I know that I can write it if I just put my mind to it. I just have not been putting my mind to it. My goal is to write 8,000 words. With what I wrote yesterday, I'm just at over like 2,000 something, like 2,500 for the month. It's the 11th. If I can continue with this, it would absolutely be amazing, because because, like I said, I'm trying to finish this book by the end of July so that I can shift into Seventh Virtue 2 in August, and also short stories because I now need to finish my collection so I can send it to my agent. I kind of need to buckle up with summer, but these were my summer writing plans essentially, and you know, summer's ending, so I just want to make sure that, you know, everything's in order for fall when I really need to buckle up.
Hi, we're back to normal programming with like an actual camera because I finally got my SD card. I am going to first say my room is a mess since my chronic pain has gotten worse. Girl, it is what it is. It is almost midnight. I want to do like a fraction of writing. I haven't written in a couple of days. I had some family visiting, so I really wasn't focused much on writing, which is fine. It's past like the halfway point in the month, right? I don't know how much I've written for camp yet. It's July 17th. Oh, it's a lot later in the month than I thought, which means I should be at about 4,000 if I wanted to like hit the halfway point. I think I'm around there. I'm like 3,000-ish. I am really exhausted right now because of my pain. I wanted to talk about my pain a little more on my channel, just like so if you are also disabled or if you have chronic pain and you're a writer. I don't see a lot of author tubers talking about what it's like to, you know, handle chronic pain and writing. So I just thought, you know, I'm a writer with chronic pain, so I want to talk about it. So if you are also on this channel and you're watching these videos, you don't feel so alone. Especially like, I think from the outside looking at my channel, you might like look at it and be like, wow, she does like a lot. And I do, like I do, I won't disregard that. Sometimes I do push myself though too much, and I just want to like show that like it's not just that I'm like constantly doing a whole bunch of stuff and like that's just my whole life. I also have like this other side of my life too that I don't really share that much on here. Lindsay Puckett, I will link her channel if you don't follow Lindsay already, makes some really cool videos and she talks about, you know, similar topics. I'm in a lot of pain right now. I want to write. It's emotional for me because it sucks. I'm still gonna do it. I'm not gonna do for long because I can't. I'm gonna hook up my computer actually to my monitor. I'm sitting at my desk. I actually haven't sat here all that often since I moved to this room about 2 months ago. I don't remember where I'm at in Hallowed Bodies. Lonan's doing something. Oh, I think he's at a church. Like I'm in the middle of a scene, which is useful for me. It's kind of like a life hack. If you struggle to start things, is I just end off in the middle. I don't like to end scenes. Like when I'm done a writing session, I don't like to be at the end of something. So then the next time I have to start something, that can just be pretty difficult. It's hard enough to start already, but I find I can procrastinate a lot more if I know that I'd already finished my chapter or my scene and now I have to start something new, especially because I'm a pantser and I don't really know at all what's going to happen to my books. Depends on how much brainstorming you do. For me, that is more useful. So I think he's going to a church and he's going to meet a character, which is useful. So maybe like I can find out who this character is. I'm over 4,000 words in the draft. That's pretty good, to be honest. I'm not trying to like rush it, but I'm also not trying to take forever with it. Hi. So we're almost done this month and I'm totally going to fail my Camp NaNoWriMo goal. It's not gonna work out. I don't even know what day it is because I have not been paying attention at all to the passing of time. It is July 29th. Oh my god. So there's two days left of the I have not come anywhere close to hitting my goal. I really didn't write very much in July. Like I think I spent like the beginning of the month I was a little bit like more consistent with it. This is the least consistent I've been with writing in a really long time. I don't know what it is, if it's the project or if it's just me. I think it just might be me, to be honest, because I think that I've just been in like a weird place with my writing. Like I probably need to write Seventh Virtue 2 because this is probably the time where like I'm tired of like writing well and probably just need to like go bullshit like some plot and like Harrison being dumb, and like that will probably fix everything. I find when I'm writing a lot of literary, it can just become like exhausting. So sometimes it's useful to have like a second project. I don't think I'm gonna hit the goal. I wasn't really trying, like, cause I was aware that I was behind for like the last 2 weeks, but I really haven't put any like extra effort into it. I'm gonna try to like get as close as I can. The whole idea was that I didn't really want to write Hallowed Bodies past this month, which is crazy because it feels like I've been writing Hallowed Bodies forever, even though I've only actually drafted it in July. The last clip, I literally wrote nothing after that last clip. I just didn't feel like it. My pain was acting up and I was tired and I just had to go to bed. A couple days ago, I went and I revised the crap out of a scene in chapter 2. So I think I'm a lot happier with that scene because the book itself, the direction was bothering me. I wasn't happy with where it was going. That was just nagging at me. It felt a lot like when I was writing Feeding Habits. I was like, I'm not happy with this. I just need to revise it and revise it and revise it until I am. I don't recommend that. I fell back into that trap for myself. And I mean, thankfully, this time around, it did end up working out. With Feeding Habits, it didn't always work out. Most of the time it didn't work out. I have a really strong idea for like at least a scene or something, like, or like an interaction, a relationship. Lonan ends up having a relationship with a guy. I don't really have a name for him. It's not really a relationship, more so as it's kind of like the only person that he's talked to in a really long time, because Lonan doesn't talk to people in this book. I mean, he's just like me, I guess, because I really write pretty exclusively with Fostered, or I've been doing so for the last couple of years. The last new character that I created was, excluding like Darren's family in Seventh Virtue, it was Jeremiah, who I created in 2019. So it's been a really long time since I created like a more main character. Now, this guy isn't going to be that important because it's a pretty short project, so I don't really need to know who he is that much. But I am really bad at characterization. I know everybody thinks that I'm very good at characterization. I get compliments on that all the time, and I really appreciate it because I do think I'm good at writing the characters that I know very well. So like Harrison, I write incredibly well. Lonan, I write, you know, pretty well, I think. Reeve, I write relatively well, but I really struggle to write other characters that aren't them. In my short stories, you probably wouldn't notice either because the space is so short that it is easier for me to inject into a character's mind. But in terms of like books, I don't create new characters. It's very uncomfortable for me. It's like, as an autistic person, like I don't want to meet new people, and like meeting new characters is like meeting new people. I can't handle that. I don't like the change of it. And so it's very uncomfortable, but I have a very strong idea of who this person is. And because I knew that he was going to exist, at least for the last couple of weeks, I'm more comfortable with writing him in. I'm stuck though, currently in the friggin' draft. So I'm going to continue it. It's so frustrating. I'm going to reread the revision of chapter 2, then reread what I have written of chapter 3, and then hopefully go into the scene with this dude. I know everybody always says like, don't wait for inspiration. You shouldn't wait for inspiration. And listen, those people are liars. I'm just kidding. It's good advice. As a writer, discipline is important, routine is important, but I will say that it's also very normal if you only wait for inspiration. I have been writing for a really long time, and I've written a lot of stuff in the 10 years that I've been writing. And I will tell you, if you don't give yourself the permission sometimes just to write when you're inspired, it's just a surefire way to burn out for some people. I mean, I'm just speaking colloquially in terms of my experience, so that might be completely untrue for you, but to be transparent, I have only really been writing since I moved back home when I feel inspired, and I feel like that's fine. It's really not a big deal. It's not a moral standing on who you are as a writer, whatever. I was reading today. I've been reading a lot. I've Gen Z'd myself into constantly needing like dopamine and like distraction, and I don't want to be sitting with my own thoughts, typical Gen Z person. Not saying it's good. I have been trying to listen to audiobooks instead of like listening to like a YouTube video or something. I just finished What We Both Know by Fawn Parker, and I'm currently listening to, it's a pretty long title. I'm gonna mistake the name, and I apologize, I missed the author's name. I think the title is We Do What We Do in the Dark, and I got recommended that book on Storygraph. The reason why I created a Storygraph account is because I've heard that it's much better for like recommendations, and I do find it was better because I mean it recommended me this book. The neurodivergence in me, I listen to audiobooks either on like, if I can do 3 times speed, that's fantastic, but if not, like 2.5 speed. So I was listening to it today, so I've already gotten about a quarter way through the book, and it's really good. I really like it, and I could hear myself being inspired just from like listening to it. I could just feel that sensation of like, ooh, writing makes me excited. Who knew? Gets an entire degree in creative writing and has no idea that writing is actually a thing that I enjoy doing sometimes. My family's watching Mamma Mia, and my room is directly below where they're watching Mamma Mia. So like, this is like Write Your Book Impossible edition. Do you even know how hard it is to not just want to sing along to all the songs right now? Like, I am so brave. I have written 3,000 words out of the 8,000 goals. So I got like 5,000 more. Technically, if I do 2,500 now or 2,500 tomorrow, I could do 2,500 on Monday, but I have a ton of appointments. And the thing is, when I wasn't, struggling with all my like physical disability and everything, I probably would have been able to do that, but I am not even going to get that idea into my mind because it's just not fair to myself, physically speaking. I have had a very difficult month in terms of chronic pain and appointments and everything being really annoying. If I get it into my head, like my brain is gonna be like, you can do it. No, physically speaking, I can't do that. I'm just gonna nip it in the bud right now. It's okay to fail. I failed Camp Nano in April. It's not the end of the world, and failing is fantastic for the perfectionism in me. At the same time, it's just like sad because like I've been so used to like not failing my goals. Like I'm like being so like pretentious about those goals and like just wanting to hang on to them because I'm like, but I don't fail anymore. I'm like, yes you do. It's gonna be fine. Everybody fails. Garamond is such a gorgeous, gorgeous font. Let me just look at very briefly. I don't want to reread the whole scene because like I don't care. In chapter 2, I called it Haunted Face. I ended up deleting a lot. It's this scene with Grace was a scene that I wrote for Feeding Habits, and I even deleted her name from the scene. Because I was like, I don't want to have your name here. I also feel like I did make it clearer that Lonan could just be seeing her. Like he's not like he's seeing her, like she's not actually there. This is a bit of like, it's giving Seventh Virtue writing, I think a little bit. It's fine. His eyes flash open and he gasps, staring at a person. Yes, a girl, dark hair, blunt bangs, a mouth set with both disgust and gentleness. Her candied voice no longer singing but speaking, so certain, so familiar, so far away, so untraceable. Who are you looking for? Lonan stumbles backward right into a rack of gummy candy. He's just like, he catches himself on the corner of a shelf, nearly slicing open his palm on a jagged edge. Reeve? And there she is, standing behind the counter. For a brief second, she's no one else but herself, someone new to the city but not to him, the bravest parts of him even braver in her. Where has she been? He doesn't care what he came here for. His sister's here, hair-braying and a tabletop fan, but the rest of her unmoving, unchanged. He can't remember the last time he saw her. When she'd said goodbye to Harrison at their tent, he hadn't actually looked at her, so the final memory of her face is filmy, barely clinging to the edges. But even before that, she's a phantom. If she'd been reading Plath on the cabin's two-seater, taking breaks only to reheat her stale coffee, if she'd gone swimming in the lake, her hair silverish in the moonlight, if she'd reached over him at dinner for another helping of potato salad or asked him to pass the salt, if she'd been voicing her plans to move into a Midwest bungalow to no one in particular, if she asked him to come with her, if he was even listening, the truth becomes very clear. He does not need a god or cigarettes, but a sister. Oh no! It's so sad. You know, if Lonan's giving up his need for godly validation and for cigarettes, it's an issue. It's an issue. Something that I realized about this book, I don't remember how I came to the realization, honestly, was that Lonan is just super extremely lonely, which is funny to me. We shouldn't make fun of him. That's mean. That's always been a really big part of his character, like his loneliness. It's, I mean, Harrison serenades him in book 3 back when it was dystopian and they were enemies by being like, my loneliness is killing me, but like emphasizing lone because like Reeve used to call Lonan lone. That was one of his nicknames. Anyway, Harrison used to call Lonan loner. So like his loneliness is a really big thing and they really need to stop making fun of him because he's not doing anything to them. I say after he did a whole bunch of terrible things. I don't know why I didn't think that that would be a big part of Hallowed Bodies. I think it's because he hasn't really been well, he has, but in a different way. Because of Harrison, he's had companionship. He feels lonely in that companionship for other reasons, mostly because he's a self-isolating person. But I think it's really interesting to be back in his head because it's been years. I haven't written in his head since 2020. So to be back in his head and be, oh yeah, I forgot. A big thing about him is that he's lonely. So of course he's gonna be projecting himself into situations, and at one point, you know, he's making up scenarios in his head of conversations that people who don't exist aren't actually having. So he really is thinking about socialization, but on an internal scale, which is really interesting. Hey, it is Editing Rachel. I just wanted to do a quick outro to this vlog because I just didn't film one. I ended up failing hysterically badly at NaNoWriMo. Actually, it was really not that bad. I wrote 5,000 words out of the 8,000. I don't know, I'm being that dramatic. It was actually pretty good. It's almost the end of August when I'm editing and posting this video now. So like the quick update about Hallowed Bodies is that it's like the same energy like that it's giving from this video, where like at some points it's working and then at some points it's just not, and I just don't even care anymore. Like it's really not that big of a deal. So I didn't hit the goal for Camp Nano, but I came really close. close. And you know what? I think I did a really good job considering that July like sucked for my life. Let me know how writing is going for you. I am still working on Hallowed Bodies. I said I would not be working on it past July. Lies. At this point, I don't really care when I finish it. I just want to finish it at some point. I'm kind of sick and tired of being in Lonan's head. I'm like, yeah, you're boring. That's gonna be the end of this vlog. I'd love to know what you're working on. Let's chat in the comments, but I'll see you guys in another video. Bye.